All right, thank you, Dave. Now, I know people are getting a little anxious because, we've been honoring Gail for a while. But I want to give everyone a chance, if they want to say a couple words about Gail. I would recommend to come up to the microphone because it's just easier for everyone to hear you, because sometimes some voices don't carry. So let me start with, this is my family and John and Angelica. Did anybody want to say anything about Gail? Okay. John Brous.
I would.
So I mentioned that this is one of my top 5 clients. I got an opportunity to work on a project for them in Valley Village. Very special couple. I noticed how much care that Alan gave Gail to come out in her walker and sit in the shady part of the backyard. And we would have conversations about how to develop this new structure, this new ADU, accessory dwelling unit. Alan kept fidgeting with his ear because he had problems with his hearing aid. And she would keep saying, Alan, put your hearing aid. So there was a little bit of banter back and forth with these folks. And I know Alan had a lot of great ideas. But he would talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and then talk some more. And then Gail would say, but Alan, didn't we just want to have the kitchen in this corner here? And he would say, oh yeah, that's right, okay, so that would be the end of it. So I got the picture pretty quick, who was the alpha dog in the family. And I really enjoyed, it was a pleasure, always, to come out to your property, except for one time, we met at the kitchen factory.
Oh.
So I'm pretty instructive about what to do when you're gonna meet me at a showroom. And I tell Alan, there's gonna be a parking problem there, but I'll pull in, and when I pull out, you can take my space. Well, I don't know if Alan had his hearing aids in, but I pulled out and he comes into my space before I get out. So I think I still owe him or he owes me, I'm not sure what it is, but we both have a little dent in our cars as a reminder of that communication conflict. Other than that, everything went well. I enjoyed working with you, Gail, and God bless her, sweetest lady, and that's it.
Yes.
Carrie? Okay. This is our niece, Carrie.
So, my Aunt Gail always really meant a lot to me. I'm sorry, she was always the reason that I wanted to be an artist. I never got to, spend a lot of time with her because, she's a very busy woman, but I would watch those Disney movies and it would be like she was there with me. And, I knew that she was just spreading joy to so many people over so many generations and for generations to come. And I knew that I couldn't be selfish, that I was grateful for all the time that I got, but I knew that she was leaving a legacy behind, something that was really just so special. But there were a few times when, they would come out to visit, and one of the times it ended up being around Halloween time, and I had already planned a whole outfit. I was gonna be a little Bo Peep. And my mom would always make my costume, so she made me a little dress, and she made me like the little hook thing and everything, and they just so happened to be coming into town around that time. So they come in and they say, well, why don't we come with you? We'll be your So my mom gets out all the cotton balls and she makes little paper ears for them and puts little cotton balls on them. And so they were my little sheep. And so I was Bo Peep with my little sheep and they followed me around. And we went on trick-or-treating together and it was just really just so funny and special. Like there was always just something so goofy. She was always so goofy all the time and just always brought smiles to everyone's faces. So I was just really grateful for all the time that I had with her and really grateful for everything that she left for us behind to enjoy.
Let me ask, is there somebody anyone that has to leave right away? Okay, everybody's good, okay. I'm gonna ask anyone here at this table would wanna say anything. Harold?
So some here have heard the story, but I thought you might get a kick out of it. I was new in California, and Lloyd and I had just moved out from the East Coast, and I was struggling to sort of find a friend, you know, like other than people that I was working with or whatever. And I joined San Fernando Valley Chorale, and in '81, and there was Gail, and we were both in the alto section, and it was immediate chemistry. I mean, it was a poof, that was it, you know. I mean, immediately we both had, you know, absurd senses of humor, and we'd be laughing, and we would be kidding around, and most of the people in the choir were like 70 years old, which, I don't know about you, but that's really old. When did that happen? So we had a wonderful time, and we kind of made fun of some of the people who were really kind of dorky or whatever, but we just had a great time. And she was going out with this guy who was a nice guy, but kind of, you know, he worked for IBM, you know, always wore the gray suits, and, you know, he was just, and meanwhile, they had broken up because she needed more. She needed somebody who was more than it, and she deserved more. And of course, I helped to coach her along with that because she deserved more. And then one day, this guy who had been busking in Germany and, you know, running all over the place, he played guitar and I played guitar, so we had a lot in common. We both done a lot of performing. And he comes wandering in, looking around and finding his way, and he sits down and we start rehearsing, and I'm sort of keeping an eye on him and thinking, oh, so he's getting to know us. And I realized that he's like a real Midwestern guy. And he likes music. He likes keeping a garden. He likes all kinds of things that I knew that Gail liked, because Gail, unlike me, Gail could grow anything. I mean, she had a garden in her backyard. It was amazing. She had trees. She was a true Midwesterner in her capability of being able to grow anything, anywhere. And I thought, oh yeah, this is it, this is it. And so Gail and I, you know, we were thick as thieves, and Alan was sort of finding his way, and then he got the idea of doing this arrangement. Everybody's gonna pray on the very last day. Yeah. And he comes up to me, because I play guitar, and he said, hey, you want to do this? You want to do this, you know, because we were doing side songs, because the choir was so bad, we had to add something for real entertainment, you know, and I said, well, yeah, that sounds great, but we need a third voice, we need a trio. And so I bring Gail would be a perfect one in the trio, and so we're rehearsing, and Alan and I are standing next to each other, Gail is over here, and we're learning the music, and I sort of work my way over here, and then Gail and Alan are standing next to each other, and they're singing, and Alan is like really impressed with her voice, and, you know, she's, next thing you know, bing, that was it, and I have always rejoiced in the fact that they really were such a fabulous match and really did, like, you know, appeal to each other's sense of absurdity and each other's understanding of what was really important in life, and they respected each other's abilities to be able to, you know, take care of the things that they loved and wanted to take care of. And I mean, Alan was like a really great playmate for Gail, and vice versa. They were really playmates, and it was just, it was really one of the most wonderful things to see that blossom. And over the years, the two of them, they had great times together. They struggled with health issues, but then Gail bounced back, and no matter what was going on, Alan was there for her and was, you know, carrying her and helping her. And then she would say to him, okay, you want to be doing a singer-songwriting thing? You stop working and you start working on your music, because I believe in you. She believed so much in who Alan was and his capability and his strength and his talent. And I just love that about her too, because she really, really appreciated who he was. So at any rate, I just want you to know sort of how they sort of fell in love and how they, you know, their relationship grew from there. And I'm just the lucky one who happened to be able to see that the two of them belong together. So anyway, that was it.
Oh.
Pretty hard to top that. Thank you, Carol, that's great. Let me move on to this table over here. I think, does any, no, okay. I know two people over here want to say something. Okay, this Karen that's coming up was our neighbor for how many years?
14 years. 14 years.
Okay, all right.
Hi. Well, my husband and I, Fernando, we had the great joy and really an accident that we ended up living next door to people like Gail and Alan. And actually, there were 6 of us. We became kind of like the Beaners, because we were all the same age. We were 3 couples, no children at the point in life when we met each other. And we were with Michael Wolfson and Christina Callahan on one hand, and then there was Fernando and I, and then Gail and Alan. And Gail was someone I met in 2002. So as we know from what we've learned a lot about her life, is that she had an accident already when I met her, and she was working on retiring. So I learned today so many things that I never knew about your past, Alan. But for 14 years we witnessed the love and the dedication that the two of them had for each other, and the way that everyone has described that Alan took care of her. But the amazing thing about Gail was that even when I met her and she began to really have so many health problems, there was a force about her. She was like a force in the world, and you could feel from what she accomplished and what she was able, that she could have a goal, like as a child, to want to be an artist, and then to want to become animator at a time when women, and I knew when I met her, I thought, you know, she's probably exaggerating. She says she was an animator at Disney. I'm not sure about that. I grew up with someone in the family that was an animator, and I never saw a woman animator. So then I realized, oh yeah, she's the real deal. And the thing about Gail is that I never met anyone then or since who could be a force in life and be so gentle and kind and sweet at the same time. And Alan, you know, meant so much to me to live next door to someone like her, because I think, you know, we all have an amazing effect on each other that we don't realize. And I thought, in coming here today, that I thought about, it's been a while since we've been neighbors, But those 14 years, I'll always carry both of you with me, with the memories that we have together and all the things we shared at that particular time in our life. And I'll just give, since people are giving examples of Gail. So one day, it was before she was very vigorous and doing her gardening and everything. And suddenly there was a man that was coming down our street. And for some reason, he was taking photos of the front of the houses. And Gail was watching him from her door, and he took a picture of their house, and then he started running, and I came over and was talking to her, and she said, I don't like the fact, what's this man doing going around taking pictures? And before I could stop her, she tears out into the street, and she comes running after the man, screaming at him. And I'm thinking, well, maybe he's a criminal or a bad guy, and she's just running after him and screaming at him. What do you think you're doing, and what are you doing with those pictures? And I'm just frozen, standing there thinking, oh my God, what's gonna happen now? And then, she came back and she said, well, I told that guy off and he's never coming back here. So that's when I learned that particular side of Gail. So everything that everyone has said, everything we learned from the church service today and here is everything that my husband Fernando and I have experienced with Gail. And aren't we lucky?
Yeah.
When anyone comes past, crosses your path in life, that is such an extraordinary human being and gives so much, like everyone said, joy and kindness and happiness. So thank you, Alan, for being able to give us this today.
Oh, oops. Uh-oh.
Technical issues. All right. I think someone else wanted to say something real quick here. Brian Tyler's a friend of mine. We met in songwriting group years and years ago. And Gary, my friend here, and Brian are both songwriters that I've worked with and written with, and so anyway.
Hey guys, how are you? Thanks for meeting me. Thanks, Alan, for this, and it was such a pleasure and honor to know Gail, and I'm proud to be here today. And I had come across something I wanted to just say.
A little closer.
Wanted something to say really quickly. So thank you for letting me be here, and because it was an honor to know Gail. I always think about her smile and her laugh and just how wonderful she was to be around. She just had such a great personality. You just couldn't top it, So it's a pleasure to know her. But I had come across something, so I'm going to put on my reading glasses here. So I'm just going to read this, okay? So it says, as I was getting ready for this event, I was looking for some photos to share because Alan had said that if you had any photos you wanted to bring along, I couldn't find any. So I came across an email. I was thinking maybe there was someone in like an attachment or something, an email that I could find if I couldn't find a physical one. But I came across an email from Alan that he had written to a group that Gary and I were a part of. It was a group of people that were doing goal setting and that sort of thing. This is a while back. This is from an email that is dated November 8th, 2008 at 11:01 p.m. It's from Alan, so I'm reading Alan's email to the group. And Alan says, "Howdy folks, I'm completing the last steps of my album getting ready for the pressing and have to face one final large expense. And as always, the questions come to mind, is this really worth the effort and money I'm putting into it? I came across a story by Austrian-born composer Frederick Loewe, who was famous for writing the scores of some great American theatrical musicals like Gigi, My Fair Lady, and Camelot. He had become enormously successful and famous in his own country at an early age. Unfortunately, his success did not travel with him when he came to this country, and he found himself often barely able to make ends meet." Alan continues. "He tried other careers, but he could not give up playing the piano, though oftentimes he couldn't afford to make the payments to keep the instrument. One story has it that once he was playing so intently that he failed to notice the 3 moving men who had come in to take the piano back. So they sat on the floor and listened until he was finished. And when he looked up, he realized what they were there for, and he prepared to let them take the piano. But instead, They did something surprising. They each reached in their pockets and together pulled out enough money to give him for that month's payment. After listening to him play, they realized how talented he was and that he needed to share his gift with the world. His excellence was rewarded. Two virtues come to mind in reading this story, Alan continues, that of patience and persistence. Though Frederick Lowe had no money, he continued performing until enough people recognized his unique ability and he became hugely successful here. So though we may feel daunted by what lies ahead, our patience and persistence will eventually lead to success. Thanks to all of you who subscribe and participate. All the best, Alan. So, I added something to that. So I say, after reading this email, a couple of things came to my mind. And that is, as it relates to Alan and Gail. First, I thought about patience and persistence that Alan and Gail both exhibited as they forged through tough times together, always proving themselves stronger and more resilient than anyone could imagine. A husband and wife truly committed to each other, taking on the world, hanging on tight to every second of time they had together, and loving each other to the fullest extent. To me, that is success. Success in marriage, success in life, and success in love. Secondly, I think about Alan and his musical talent, and more importantly, his greatness as a human being. Alan, though there may be times ahead when you may feel daunted by what lies ahead, as you go on and you share with the world your love for Gail through conversation and song and speak of the joy she's given to you that is forever in your heart, I believe that you and those of us fortunate to know you will be rewarded for your excellence. We love you, Alan, and we love you, Gail. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Brian, this is terrific. I feel humbled when I hear all of this, and I, you know, it's kind of hard to put into words what everything you feel, but I think everybody here can feel the love that's going on, and I think that's something that we all had for a long time that can't be replaced by anything else. And so I just am very grateful that you all are here and sharing this with us. Anyone else at the table want to say anything here?
I ain't following that.
Okay. I'm gonna have my family in the very back. Anyone on that table wants to say anything? I think my niece, Colleen, wants to say something. Okay.
It's hard to follow so many wonderful artistic people, but I guess I should say that I think that the homily that was given today, and I want to make sure, Alan, did you hear it?
I could hear it pretty well, but not all of it.
Okay. So I want to make sure that, I think all of us probably want to make sure that you hear it. Because I want to make sure that you heard it. I'm a Frank, and my whole life, I think that for you guys who are out here in California, that you may or may not know this, but it's kind of in our genetics. But Alan's always, no offense against any of my other family here, but Alan's always kind of been my favorite uncle. And therefore Aunt Gail, even though she wasn't blood, I mean, she was just cool, right? Who wouldn't love Aunt Gail? But I'll never forget, and I can look at my daughter and I can look at Carrie and everybody, but I'll never forget the first time I met her. And I was going through that weird age where I didn't think I was pretty or whatever. And Gail had come in for the first time to meet us. And I think I was like 8 or something like that. And so they went out and bought this reindeer, and the reindeer would walk and like and things or whatever. So typical Alan and Gail, right? And then they had rented a car, and it was Peoria. And so like, no, look in the mirror, you're fine, you're beautiful, whatever. I mean, but it was just trying to reinforce that inner beauty that existed in us. And it turns out that, 20 plus years later, I would be a musician too, and I would be all of these things that Alan and Gail would come to Chicago and fly year after year after year to come see me do, and I would be in the professional world, and I would fly out almost every year and come see them, and I would end up having a child, and her father was from California and Santa Barbara, so I would see them, and we had this wonderful relationship. But I go back to that homily. Our family is about almost like this codependency caregiving thing, where we give without ever expecting anything back. And I didn't know that much about it until I met my daughter's family through my now ex-husband. And our family that are priests, they worked at the Santa Barbara Mission, and they were Franciscans. And there's something to be said about the Catholic faith and truly loving and never expecting anything back. And that's how we were raised. And that's where Alan was raised from. But that comes from my mom and all of us down, and we really don't ever expect anything back. And I just want to make sure, Alan, that you heard that today, that it's your time now. You gave. And I would never forget when he was at your wedding, he was talking about just dealing with Gail's surgery in her back and having to put these gauze pads in and all the things that he went through to love her. And he was comparing stories with my dad, and my dad's like, oh, I know, and this with my wife. And he eventually he took over power of attorney for my mom to help give me relief so I could take care of my daughter. I mean, he's done so many things for so many people. But my Aunt Susie, she does this. I mean, his brother died in the military, and he's stood up for his kids. And then when my cousin died, his niece, I mean, he flew in, he's always flown in for everything. He's never missed a beat. Never. Always been there. And I laugh because Gail would be like the financially responsible one, but Alan would always find a way to try to take care of all of us nieces and nephews because he wanted to have kids. And I don't know if you guys knew that. I didn't for a long time, but he loved us like his kids. So some of us, my folks, my mom had a lot of health issues, so he would find a way to take care of us. And my brother's schizophrenic, and he still takes care of him. He's always giving, and he's gotta be so tired. And so, priest told you it's time. You get to love yourself. And I know it's hard because we don't do that. We Franks don't do that. We're very Christ-like. But I think that's one of the things that was so beautiful about seeing today was that clearly the two of them were brought together. And I just think about how lucky it was that I got to see that growing up, and I wanted my daughter to see that like true love can really exist. And I'm sure for everybody here, it's so magical to get to be blessed to see true love exist. And I don't know, I know for us and our family, there was such a special dynamic between Alan and Gail, and we all were so grateful that she was a part of our family, and you guys are all of our part of our family. And I just want to say, Alan, that I hope that you take a little time now and love yourself. Because, right? Am I right?
Yep,
Family?
yep, exactly.
Because you've done so much for all of us. So please do for yourself, because she was amazing, and you loved her so much, and you loved my mom, and you loved your sister, and you loved my brother, and you've been a great neighbor and a great friend.
Yep.
So I just, kind of speaking on behalf of us as your family, I just want to say thank you for all that you've done. And that was what the priest was saying, but of course, his little accent and everything. So,
And the hearing aids. Yeah.
thank you, and thank you everybody for coming out and supporting not just Gail, but for Alan and for us who are in from all over the country, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're so blessed
Anything for
to
you.
meet you, all of us from North Carolina and Vegas and Florida and Nevada and Chicago and Creve Coeur, Peoria and Nashville. Like we are so grateful for all the love that you gave to our family through all these years. Oh my gosh, what an amazing couple, right? Like seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Seriously, I wanted to make sure you heard him. I was like, we know Alan.
It's funny. Thank you, Colin. That's beautiful. It's so funny because I like to say hearing aids are kind of like, our family, both sides of my family are hard of hearing as we
Yep.
get into our 50s and our 60s.
I have a hearing aid.
And I mean, I compared it to, if you want to fly from here to New York, you could, with your own ears as a vehicle, think of your own ears as a 747. There you go. Hearing aids technology today is kind of like riding a tricycle.
Yeah.
It's just not the same. But anyway, thank you for kind of reinforcing what Father Jose had said today. So I have a presentation, but I think people, I don't want to take a long time here, but I know that I had made a presentation. So we had two computers at home. This one worked for one reason, and then the other one worked for another reason, and I was up till like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock last night, and I was taking some quotes. And by the way, I'm gonna move. Does anyone else at the back table want to say anything? Okay, all right. So I'm moving to the animators here, who I know Dave, thank you, Dave, for that great presentation. There's one person I want to point out over here, and that's Scott Santoro. Scott, I spent time last night putting all your quotes together on a thing. and then I put it on the other computer, and we only brought this computer today. So, but if you look at the table back here, there's some really, really funny cartoons that Scott drew of Gail that are hysterical. And Gail also would, this whole thing about quotes that Dave was presenting that Gail would say, there were quotes that Gail would say, and I'm wondering, Scott, if you remember some of those quotes, and if you like to come up and say a few words. Does anybody at the table else want to say anything at your animator table there? Okay. Okay. Scott, would you just like to say a word or two here?
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Quotes kind of speak for themselves, so, yeah, so, but, I'll just say that I shared an office with Gail for about 3 years, and when I first met her, I just thought, well, she seems very nice, and, you know, there's not a mean bone in her body. Well, she could get pretty peppery sometimes if we pushed her hard enough. So it's like, I'd say, so Gail, when did you move to LA? I said, well, you know, I guess, well, she lived next to Warner Brothers, I think, with her sister, right next to it. And they were shooting The Music Man. And so that was like 1961. And she said, so they were outside, they were shooting 76 trombones. So they had the playback. So it was like,
Closer to the microphone.
so it was, you know, and then they go, and then over and over and over. And she said, well, at first I really liked it, and then I wanted to climb over the wall and kill everybody. And then I knew that Gail was, you know, there was a little bit more under the surface than and yeah, and then it was like, she would never tell us her age. It was a big secret. And I said, then we got on the subject of where were we when Kennedy was assassinated? And I said, well, I was in the 5th grade, and the other guy in the room, Ed Coffey, was in 6th grade, and we talked about it. She said, oh, where were you, Gail? And she went, well, I was inking Cindy Bear at Hanna-Barbera. Like, oh, that's how old you are. Shut up! You know, she was like, you tricked me! And then we just went for it. It was like, so Gail, what was the Truman administration like? So, yeah, but it was like, we were in the room together for a long time, and I used to take Gail out for her birthday sometimes, and it's kind of, as nice as this is, I really, the food was great, thank you very much. Gail liked 3 restaurants: Chez Nous, Chopstick, and Gourmet 88. They're all gone. But but the Chopstick, she'd say, let's just go to Chopstick. And I was like, Gail, there's so much MSG on that food, it sparkles. It gives me such a headache. Oh, I think it's good. So we go, you know. Anyway, it was, and by the way, I was in the room long enough, you know, we didn't work like 8 hours a day, it was more like 10 sometimes. And so it was like, I predate you, so I was experienced the, oh, I met somebody, he's really nice. I was like, well, who is it, you know, and then I went to your backyard reception, when you, 86, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, I was there.
Matrimonial jam.
Yeah, so. Yeah, I was there, you know, that was sort of at the end of, because Gail went off to work on Flower Street, on Basil Baker Street, whatever it's called, Great Western Detective, and I went off somewhere else, so. Anyway, that was, but I, you know, stayed in touch with her and got all your Christmas cards, and she always remembered my birthday, and so that was Gail. She was always very thoughtful, even though we figured out how old she was.
Yeah, there was a few quotes. Hold on a second. So anyway, I just want to say a couple more words. I'm not gonna worry about this too much, but I just want to kind of say that the pepperiness of Gail, one of the last quotes we had, and I was talking about how sweet everybody, how sweet Gail was, and, but one of the quotes I remember, one of the last quotes he sent me was something where Gail, he drew a little picture of Gail, and she's looking off, and she says, I would love to see teenagers torn limb from limb. That was Gail. Anyway, I had a wonderful life with Gail, and what I miss most is the sharing of everything. It was just nice to share the little experiences encountered every day, the tiniest of things that didn't mean much in and of themselves, but meant you had someone to hear you and share in whatever it was. Not important stuff, but something that after so many years is gone. And because she could make a stupid comment and turn it into a hilarious moment, something you could laugh at for the rest of your lives, such as in the hospital when she got injected with some iron and they didn't quite get it all in the veins, so it came up and made her hand black for about a year. And the nurse was Russian, so the nurse came in the room and she says, well, I gave your wife an iron injection. I said, what did you give her? An iron injection. I said, iron? And Gail finally said, iron. I said, oh, okay. So over the years, we had all these little sayings that only us would understand, but we never said, did you take your iron today? No, we said, did you take your iron today? Or, if we were going out to eat at a Mexican restaurant, I said, let's eat Mexico tonight.
Mexico.
Anyway, that's fun stuff. But Gail was the humblest, sweetest lady that we could have had the pleasure to have known. Thank you, Gail. Thank you for being... Thank you for being in our lives. Even though you're not here, our love for you will continue to grow day by day. And now go and fly with those newfound angel wings. I hope they work better than little baby Pegasus. Thank you so much for being here for all of you today to celebrate Gail's life.